The next question comes from Olympia. What Maoist group were you part of? I was around the Revolutionary Communist Party when I was like 19. When I was a teenager. I would distribute their newspaper at my high school. And then when I was, 19 years old, for like a year, I was part of the Revolutionary Communist Youth Brigade. Now they have revolution clubs, but they didn't have that then. Then it was the RCYB. I even had a T-shirt. We had the RCYB T-shirts, and it was a T-shirt, and the T-shirt said, "I was born in a sewer called capitalism. Now I'm living for the revolution." And on the front, it had like somebody holding an AK-47 rifle. And I was in the RCYB. Yeah, I was in the RCYB for like a year in Cleveland, and they sent me to different parts of the country, and I lived with other people in the group, and yeah, I mean, I did that. I was with them at one point. And honestly, I've thought a lot about my time in that organization. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I have a new respect for them. I really do. I was around them, and the reason that I didn't stay with them and I joined the Workers' World Party was because I couldn't agree with them. They maintained that the Soviet Union had restored capitalism in 1956. They maintained that Cuba was a revisionist society, that no real socialism existed in the world today, that the Soviet Union had been socialist until the death of Stalin, China had been socialist until the death of Mao, all the other countries were revisionist. They didn't support the Iraqi resistance. At the time, the USA had invaded Iraq, and the Iraqi people were fighting the US troops. And I said, the Iraqi people have the right to defend their country from the foreign occupier. They said, oh, no, no, no. We're not for, they said it's two outmoded systems, Christian fascism and Islamofascism. We need the third way of communism, bringing forward another way. Communism is our new way. I thought that was awful. They didn't support Bolivarianism and Venezuela. And so I joined the Workers' World Party eventually, right? um but I have a new respect. I've reflected a lot about, I was 19 years old. I was a high school student for the most part, but then after like a week after I graduated, I moved out of my parents' house. I moved up to Cleveland. I was with the RCP people. I was in their youth organization, and honestly, I will say this. As much as I didn't agree with their line, and that's why I couldn't stay with them. I didn't agree with their line, but I will say that they did shit. They got shit done. They taught me how to get shit done. Okay? And Workers' World that I was in for 8 years, it was like, the gas pedal in the RCP. It was like full speed ahead. Go, 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 go. And Workers' World that I was in for 8 years, it was like, it was just like, it was like they barely, they took their foot off the brake. Okay. And they were just kind of rolling ahead. But RCP, I was selling newspapers. Every day I was selling newspapers. I would have class. I'd be in college. I'd be like, I have to go to class. They'd be like, oh, why don't you explain to the Iraqi children who got blown up today why your college class is more important than selling newspapers with us on the street today? We have the answer. Communism is the answer. They were go, go, go. Every Saturday, every Sunday, I was waking up early and getting on a train into downtown Cleveland and selling newspapers. Every day after class, I was getting on the bus and I was going to Cleveland to distribute newspapers or work in their bookstore. We were doing road trips around the country. We would drive to Columbus. We'd drive to different cities to distribute their literature and put up posters. I put up so many posters. We were going to colleges all over the country, and we're driving to this college this weekend. We drive to a college and we just put up posters about Bob Avakian and communism here. All right, we're driving to this college, and we go. We got shit done. Workers' World didn't have anywhere near that level of energy. Nowhere near that level of energy. That said, Workers' World's ideas, they were like part of the international communist movement. The RCP, they were a Maoist sect, and their beliefs were obscure. They were sectarian. Their beliefs were very esoteric, right? Their beliefs, they were the one true party. China had sold out. The Soviet Union had sold out. All the other countries were fake. Bob Avakian, their leader, had the one true interpretation of communism. Their ideas were not good, okay? Their ideas were bad, but they had a level of fanaticism and energy that's really was missing, that I was looking for in the Workers' World Party. They never had that level of fanaticism. They never had that level of energy. In the Workers' World Party, it was like a group of tired old boomers, who just, okay, we're gonna have another rally. Okay. It was never, but the RCP, they were go, 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 go. They was go, go, go. And we worked hard. And we engaged with people. We were constantly out on the street talking to people about communism, knocking on people's doors, going to college campuses, putting up posters. We were constantly going out and spreading communism. Unfortunately, it was their brand of communism. And I had different, they didn't believe in economic rhetoric. You couldn't talk about economics. As far I would say, they'd say, well, what's good about communism? I'd say, well, everyone has a job, everyone has healthcare. And they'd take me aside, Caleb, we don't talk that way. Like, what's wrong with saying that? And they'd say, well, no, that's economism. We say under communism, we get rid of all oppression. There's no oppression of women. There's no racism. It's an egalitarian, liberatory society. Like, you couldn't talk about economics because that was not Maoist or something. They're heavily tainted by the new left. Their focus when I was around them, and even now, their focus when I was around them was Bush was a fascist, and the evangelical Christian right were fascists, and black people are suffering from police brutality and racism. That was their focus, and they protested against police brutality. They talked about police brutality and racism, and they talked about Bush being a fascist, and the answer was communism, was their interpretation of communism. Was the Cultural Revolution in China, was Stalin's Russia, was the new synthesis of their leader. Their ideas were quite bad. I'll just be honest with you. Their ideas, no offense if there's any RCP people watching right now, but their ideas were quite bad. And I couldn't be one to their ideas. I believed in communism, but I didn't believe in their ideas. Their ideas were, and I just couldn't be one to their ideas, I believed in communism. I didn't believe in their esoteric new left. I don't know what you want to call it. Really their ideas were very much as they called themselves communists, they were LARPing the Black Panthers. They were LARPing Students for a Democratic Society in the 60s. They were 60s radicals. They were new left counterculture protesters. You know what I mean? They didn't really believe in ML. You know what I mean? They believed in this new theory of the liberation of mankind and Bob Avakian's new synthesis. And, I remember I did have different, one of the, as I was leaving the group, I was just saying I didn't agree with you. And, I remember I sat down with one of their leaders, and there was one of these essays that they had. It was like written by their leader. It was called 3 Alternative Worlds. And it was like, well, the first world was capitalism and imperialism the way it is now. The second world is the revisionist world. It's Cuba, it's the Soviet Union, it's some society where everyone has a job, everyone has health care, but they're not for that either. They're for the third way, this amazing liberatory way of communism and blah, 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 this magical thing full of philosophical words that they can't even explain what it is. And I'm just like, well, isn't North Korea and Cuba and aren't they like a transition to eventually getting to communism? Oh, no. No. There's no stages, you know what I mean? And that, it got wacky, right? The focus wasn't on how do we mobilize the working class to take control of the means of production and transition to socialism. No. The focus was how do we build a world where people are becoming empowered and engaging with ideas so that we can get to the ultimate goal of communism. There was no economics in any of it. It was all very, very, very intellectual. It was intellectual, and it was focused on the state. I've said many times that the RCP is a Blanquist organization. it's all about the state. Police brutality, wars, police repression. The government now is bad. When we come to power, the government will be good, right? And a lot of talk about violence. I'll tell you that much. That's one thing about the group that honestly, I mean, they've been harassed by law enforcement and stuff over the years. And you know, makes sense because the rhetoric about violence, again, I am for a peaceful transition to socialism. Responsible Marxists advocate a peaceful transition to socialism. They didn't. Their literature was all about revolution means people's war. If you read their stuff, it was all very laced in violence and laced in profanity. They're new leftovers. They're remnants of another time, right? And I respect them, and I feel like their ability to get shit done, to go out and put out posters, to go out and leaflet, that really helped me. They taught me how to do outreach. They taught me how to sell newspapers. They taught me how to engage with people. And honestly, they gave me a huge amount of confidence. Because I was quite shy when I was a teenager. And my family had always told me never to argue with people about communism because it's like embarrassing for the family. Don't do that, Caleb. Don't talk to people about communism. So if anyone asked me, are you a communist? I would like change the subject or whatever. But when I was with the RCP, the RCYB people, they were just like, go, go, go. It's like, we're going to go talk to people about communism all day long. And they would after you'd go out, you had to write a report. You had to go out and write a report of what conversations you had. It was like they were obsessed with engaging with people about communism. So, I honestly, I was not good to them. After I left them, I badmouthed them a lot. And I shouldn't have done that, I was quite critical of them in ways that, but I was young. And that's the thing. Young people do that when you're young, and I'm only 34, so I'm still young. But when I was 19 and I'd been around the RCP, and the RCP, it wasn't a group for me. I didn't agree with them. I was looking for, economic Marxism and ML, and they were preaching this new left, whatever, right? And they weren't the group for me, but, I overreacted. You know what I mean? I overreacted. And that's what young people do. When you're 19, you overreact, and you write big screeds on the internet dissing leaders, and you talk shit, and you call people out, and as you get older, you realize that doesn't really help you. You don't want to burn bridges, right? You don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to make unnecessary enemies. You stop working with an organization. You say, I wish you well. I'm sorry, but I'd like to move on. You don't want to have a big blow up with people, right? And you learn that, right? And you also learn to lower your expectations. You don't expect everything to make your dreams come true. You don't expect everything to be perfect. You learn to compromise with the world as it exists in order to achieve good things. The good things you get in this life don't come from demanding and having a temper tantrum because the world isn't perfect. The good things you get in this life tend to come from finding really existing things that can deliver it and thinking, okay, what can I do with these existing social forces to get me where I want to go, and maneuvering with the world as it actually exists to achieve your goals, right? That's where good things come from. But this comes with time, right? And if you're expecting a group to, it's like romantic relationships in some degree, right? A lot of people when they're young, they want their boyfriend or their girlfriend to be the love of their life, to be their Hollywood romance. And when it's not that, they get really mad and they get upset, and there's a huge amount of drama. But as people get older, their romantic relationships are a little more healthy because they don't expect that their partner is going to be, they don't expect they're going to have a Hollywood romance with their partner. They realize their partner is going to be flawed, right? This is all just part of growing up. But I thought a lot, I've actually reflected a lot on the RCP, that I was around when I was 19, because honestly, as much as their political line I disagreed with, their ability to do outreach and promote their ideas was very effective. Very effective in terms of street outreach, postering, leafleting. They had a culture of going out and getting shit done. And I can respect that. And I wish there was more of that, and honestly, it's interesting. I noticed that they do YouTube and stream and stuff, and a lot more people watch these streams than watch them, but I've watched, their broadcast. They have these like infomercials. It seems like an infomercial. It's a podcast that they have, and they got a couple people on there. I'm not going to name names. And it almost looks like an infomercial. I feel like I'm flipping through the channels. It's late night and it's like, hey, all right, check out Bob Avakian's latest book. It's going to be so amazing. It's like an infomercial for Bob Avakian's books and interviews and writings. And, you know, so there they are. I mean, that's the RCP. That's the Revolutionary Communist Party. And, I wish them well. You know what I mean? They weren't the group for me, but I learned from them. Mainly what I learned was how to do outreach. That's what I learned, was how to do outreach, how to engage with people. And I also learned this lifestyle of go, go, go. I mean, when you're around them, they expect it to be your whole life, right? It's your full-time job being in the RCP, right? You have another job to pay the bills or you go to school or something, but your full life is the revolution. You got to get down with the revolution, man. They'll call you on the phone and they want you out there selling newspapers and postering and leafleting all the time. And that's very respectable. We need more people to live a revolutionary life, to give their life to organizing. We need more people to do that, right? So many young people nowadays, kids these days, are just sitting around. But seriously, right? You're happier when you go, go, go. You don't have to go, go, go communism, right? If you go, go, go sports, or you go, go, go your career or whatever, when you believe in something, when you wake up early in the morning to work hard on something, that's when you're happy, right? When you're just sitting at home going, oh, my life sucks, that's when you're miserable, right? But when you wake up in the morning because you're committed to a cause, when you're running from one meeting to another meeting because you're trying to get something done, when you're putting together events, when you're out engaging with the public, meeting new people and engaging with them about your political ideas, that's how you're happy, right? That's how I learned to be happy. Those are the happiness that I've experienced in my life, which I've experienced it, in different ways. I've learned it from being go, go, go. And if you're a revolutionary, if you're the kind of person who's meant to live a revolutionary life, that's the kind of happiness you can have. The happiness from being among the masses, and from engaging in struggle. If you read the Little Red Book, he talks about the masses are the water and the revolutionaries are the fish, right? And the joy of being a revolutionary is being out among the masses, engaging the masses of people, also pushing forward your movement, pushing forward revolutionary struggles, right? That's the joy, the happiness that you can experience, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there, since you asked about them, because I feel kind of bad, because I overreacted at the time. I was so angry at them for not being the group that I wanted, that I went over the top against them, and I regret it, and there's plenty you can learn from them. And the thing is, at the end of the day, all of these communist groups in the United States, they all have a splinter skill. They all have like one thing they can do well. PSL, Workers' World, they can stage rallies and protest very well. The Pathfinder Tendency, Socialist Workers' Party, they can sell books very well. The CPUSA, they can build relationships with labor union bureaucrats and with the Democratic Party very well. The RCP, they can promote their writings and promote their literature and promote their stuff very well. And they can agitate around police brutality very well. So there's something we can learn from all of these groups, and that criticism is necessary in order to clarify things. But you get further. If you're going to take this kind of politics seriously, it's much better if you learn from what people do well than from just their mistakes. You have to learn from people's mistakes. You have to clarify differences. But if you look at what other people who are doing things similar to what you want to do, look at what they do and say, how did they have success doing it? That's a good way of doing it. That's a good way of looking at these things. That's how I see it, right? And that applies to even like different internet personalities, right? I mean, ContraPoints. Honestly, I don't agree with her. She's very good at what she does. She is very, very good at what she does, right? She's doing it for Hillary Clinton. I mean, she's her ideas are shit, but she's really good at it. And whoever writes her scripts for her and or engages with her, right? I know she's very close to who is that? Oh, I don't know. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, right? Some of the other bread tubers, I don't think know what they're doing.